Two narrow disaster recovery scenarios. In many cases, when we want to restore data, let's say that we utilize GitHub on a daily basis, and we make some sort of snapshot from GitHub. We are assuming that we make backup of data from GitHub, we make git clone, and in case of incident, we are going to restore those data back to GitHub and continue working there. Question is, what will happen if GitHub has an outage? How will you continue working then? And that's something that people typically don't think about. That's why when we are thinking about backup of our DevOps data, first of all, you should be able to switch between platforms. You can be dependent on GitHub, you can be dependent on GitLab, you can be dependent on Atlassian. You need to be able to switch between the platforms. And not to make empty threads out of this. 2017, the biggest GitLab security incident there ever was. Some of their customers lose access to their GitLab infrastructure and all the data for 2 weeks. And ask yourself right now, if you will lose access to software that runs your business or is a critical part of your infrastructure for 2 weeks, how it would impact your business? How big would be the losses? If your developers cannot work for 2 weeks, how big would be the losses? Because of their idleness. So you need to be able to switch between the platforms. You also need to be independent from the cloud infrastructure as well. I know that everybody is now talking about cloud and cloud only. Some vendors like Atlassian are even forcing their customers to move over to cloud. However, you still should be prepared that in case of incident, you should have some sort of on-premise infrastructure that you can come back to, even temporarily. You need to be also able, especially in terms of DevOps data, to restore them without overwriting them. If we are talking about those most common incidents that are related sometimes to accidental human deletion of data by your staff, by your employees, you probably don't need to bring back the whole Jira workspace or whole GitHub organization if somebody messed up one repository by accident. You want to be able to restore just one of those if necessary. Moving up next, what makes a reliable disaster recovery solution for your DevOps in that case? First of all, you need to be prepared for all scenarios. So if service has an outage like GitHub or GitLab, have this cross-restore capability. Be able to switch from cloud to on-premise or from GitHub to GitLab, from Bitbucket to GitLab, and all the other way. Make sure that you're able to get back to work as soon as possible. Have so-called granular restore capability. Give yourself possibility to restore the data, without overwriting any of them, and only restore the things that matter. For example, only the projects that are ongoing projects, and continue working on them rather than restoring the whole thing, which will take substantial time. If you lost access to your account, be prepared to make restore to another account, either a free one. I had a case like this when I had a customer using GitHub, and due to ransomware attack, by the way, done by one of their subcontractors, they lost access to their GitHub environment. And not only they needed to restore the data, they wanted to restore it back to GitHub, but to different account, because their original one wasn't available. So have possibility of this like this. Don't be tied to one account only. Sometimes we realize too late that some data is lost. Be able to make some so-called point-in-time restore. So enable yourself to come back in time as much as possible, and restore data from 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 3 months ago. This is also important for ransomware protection, because if we have incident when your code base is infected, typically the attack doesn't occur immediately. It occurs 3 months later, 6 months later. Attackers are patient. So consider a fact that, okay, if in 6 months' time I realize that my code base is infected and my backups from the past 6 months are infected too, you should be able to restore data from 7 months ago. So have platform that, first of all, allows you to store backups for such prolonged time. And secondly, have platform that allows you to restore this data. I've met recently backup vendor which told me that they can only keep the 3 latest copies and they run copy once per day, meaning that you can only restore, if we have Wednesday today, I can restore backup from Monday. Okay, what if I have incident that my code has been infected 2 weeks ago? Too bad.